think we can start, Yaris.
Okay, welcome again, everybody. It's 20 past 4, so it's time for our second exciting Fiori session. Again, in the utilities industry, a case of Delaware did at Fluvius. So I leave the work to the speaker to present himself and the business case to see what magic happened at Fluvius and how they did it.
Wow, thanks for the great intro there. Normally everyone should be able to hear me and you should be able to see my screen as well. So if that's fine, then I'll just go ahead and get started.
Go ahead.
Absolutely.
All right. So my name is Jurgen Kier. I've been working at Delaware for a couple of years now. I focus myself on full stack development and most of all new technologies like already mentioned Fiori Elements. RAP is in there as well. And yeah, let's just get into it. So the presentation that I'm going to present to you today is based on a customer case that we did at Fluvius. So SAP RAP at Fluvius. Let's quickly go over the content of what we will go over today. So first of all, I'm going to just give you a brief introduction of what is Delaware doing at Fluvius. We'll go over the customer case, some technical realizations, then eventually the case results and the key takeaways of the project. All right, so Delaware at Fluvius, a small introduction. So we're going to get to know the project. So as already mentioned, Fluvius offers a lot of network solutions. Their goal was to improve customer satisfaction and in-house efficiency for a couple of years now. And they work together with Delaware to make sure of that. So in practice, what did Delaware do at Fluvius? We did a complete transformation of their IT landscape to SAP S/4HANA. So not only logistics, finance as well, and a lot of others as well. So the goal was to radically reduce the complexity of the IT landscape at Fluvius. All right, so the customer case will sort of be the thread throughout the presentation. Why? Because that's definitely when we talk about technicalities, it's always easy to have a practice customer case with it. Now, for this, I've got Dimitri Heysens, which is a logistics manager at Fluvius in Lokeren. He is going to present a customer case to you. This is going to be a small video of him explaining it to you. Keep in mind the audio might be a little bit on the low side, on the quiet side, but I'll just get into it. The video is in Dutch, but we've got English subtitles on it.
Dus tijdens de bouw van EWM in DC Lokeren in Fluvius hadden we eigenlijk de bedoeling om de goederenontvangst uit te bouwen met bepaalde kenmerken om bepaalde zaken te vermijden. Zoals loopafstand bijvoorbeeld. Dus als we hier kijken, we staan hier op de goederenontvangstafdeling. We hebben hier verschillende materialen en achter ons het bureel. Voorheen in R3 was het dan de bedoeling dat de collega's materiaal kwamen bekijken, de zendnota meenamen naar het bureel, om daar eigenlijk de administratieve verwerking te doen. Nu blijkt, ja, dat is altijd een loopafstand natuurlijk. We hebben een 15-tal poorten hier in DC Lokeren, waar dat de geleverde materialen geplaatst worden. En dat gaf enorm veel loopafstanden, waardoor dat de doorlooptijd ook wel te groot was. Dus dat was een van de zaken dat we nu met de EWM wouden wegwerken. Dus vandaar hebben we dan gekozen om een applicatie te laten bouwen die eigenlijk die loopafstanden ging beperken. Wat is de bedoeling? We hebben een applicatie laten bouwen die dus op een tablet wordt weergegeven. En dan kan de operator in principe enkel via het bestelnummer de posities die dus in SAP zijn aangemaakt van de juiste goederen ontvangen. En op die manier eigenlijk op een heel efficiënte manier ontvangen naast de materialen zelf. Dus we zijn niet meer genoodzaakt om altijd naar PC te gaan. We gaan dat op de tablet doen, samen met de stapelaar, die dan ook voorzien is van een printer, om daar meteen de labels te laten printen. En op die manier heeft eigenlijk de collega een flexibele werkplek met zijn stapelaar. Hij gaat tot bij zijn goederen, kan die ontvangen tot en met labeling, zodanig dat de wegzet naar het rekkenmagazijn op een vlotte manier kan gebeuren. Uiteraard is het zo dat er binnen SAP verschillende zaken moeten gebeuren, zoals aanlevering aanmaken, goederenontvangst boeken, labels printen, dat is dus het verpakken ook van die materialen, en het wegzetten. Nu, al die zaken is ook geprobeerd om die dus in de applicatie vervat te krijgen, waardoor dat de collega aan de hand van het bestelnummer de juiste posities aanvinkt en eigenlijk dus die labels laat printen. Nu, we zijn rechtstreeks aan de materialen, dus we kunnen ook heel makkelijk de verpakkingsparameters controleren en ook de geleverde hoeveelheden. Indien dat dit allemaal oké is, is het met één druk op de knop dat eigenlijk al die zaken op de achtergrond gebeuren, waar dat eigenlijk een heel efficiënte in SAP goederenontvangst uitgevoerd is. Binnen Fluvius hebben we een materiaalcatalogus, waarop dat de eindgebruiker de technische specificaties van een artikel kan gaan opzoeken, maar ook de foto. Dus daarom hebben we ook voorzien om in de app ook een foto te voorzien van het materiaal dat op dat moment op goederenontvangst is. Nu, dat heeft meerdere voordelen. Onder andere kunnen wij gaan zien, is die foto nog à jour? Zo niet, dan gaan wij een nieuwe foto nemen en onze materiaalcatalogus onderhouden. Anderzijds, als er geen foto aanwezig is, gaan we uiteraard die foto nemen, zodanig dat die materiaalcatalogus voor alle artikels een foto heeft. Anderzijds doen wij in Lokeren ook visuele inspecties. Dat is eigenlijk een controle dat iedere logistieke medewerker kan uitvoeren aan de geleverde materialen. Dat is ook een tekst dat onze technoloog eigenlijk gaat beheren en ons toebedeelt om die materialen dan effectief ook om die te inspecteren. Sorry. Nu, in ons goederenontvangst, in de applicatie, hebben wij die twee zaken ook voorzien. Enerzijds controle van de foto en anderzijds van de visuele inspectie. Indien dat beide oké is, doet men op goederenontvangst en zijn ook die zaken op de achtergrond in SAP bevestigd dat zowel foto als visuele inspectie aanvaardbaar en oké was.
All right, so I hope that was clear for everyone. But just to be sure, I'm going to just summarize everything that Dimitri just said. So what was the goal in this customer case at logistics at Fluvius? So one of the goals was to decrease the walking distance. Then next to that, we also wanted to create a new workspace. So that's something that he talked about as well. They walk around a lot, so they needed to be able to take their workspace with them. Next to that, we also have simplifying the inbound process. So until now, they had to do the end users always had to do a lot of steps in SAP GUI, and the goal was at logistics to simplify that process for them in a small application on their launchpad, which is the next key point. Also, what Fluvius does is they maintain a material catalog. Now, in that material catalog, there's a picture, there's visual inspection text, there's just a lot in there, and they wanted to be able to maintain that from within the application. We also have the possibility to perform quality control, create put-away tasks, and the app needed to be versatile in a certain way that it should be able to use the application not only inside, but also outside. All right, so let's quickly go over the technical realizations. So from backend to frontend, what do we have? We used RAP. This is very important. This is one of the key takeaways of this presentation. We used RAP, so ABAP, Restful Application Programming. Why did we do that? Is because it takes full advantage of the fact that Fluvius went to S4HANA edition 1909. The reason why we use RAP is for efficient end-to-end development using RAP and EWM, so SAP EWM, so the logistics stuff. Then next to that, something that previously talked about is the annotations and the Fiori elements. This way we can create front-end applications with Fiori elements. So the end user has some customizability at their end. Next to that, we also have barcode scanning, which is a very efficient way of handling large numbers, so they don't have to fill it in. Next to that, we also have the user experience on the tablet. With that, we'll wrap up the technical realizations. So what is RAP? So I think the best way to explain to you what RAP is to go back to the classic way of doing it. So what we used to do is we used to use the SAP GUI, the gateway transactions. I think a lot of people are very used to using SEGW. We did our data modeling based on our entities. Our data behavior was done using ABAP classes. We got the classes in there. Maybe for some people that's a familiar thing to see. And then the service provisioning was done in, as mentioned before, SEGW. And then they had to activate and maintain the services also in the GUI. Now, what we can do with RAP is one of the key advantages is that we can do everything from within Eclipse. So we don't have to use the GUI anymore. Data modeling is done with CDS. Then the data, that is one of the key points with RAP is that the data behavior is also done using CDS. So that's one of the things that we can do now is, for example, when you do a post, even a get, we can just change out the behavior of the data before it gets from the tables or goes to the tables with behavior implementations using ABAP. And then next to that, so RAP also has the service definition and the service binding. So things that we used to do in a CGW, we can now all do that from within Eclipse with their own files. So that's very important. So what does RAP have? What are the key elements of RAP? So that's CDS. I think that's one of the things that has been mentioned in the previous presentation. So I won't go over that too much. But one of the key points of CDS is just it's high performance. You can enable deep structures in CDS. A very usable thing is the fact that the interface CDSs can be reused. So in our example, we had to make two applications, so one for inside and one for outside. We could just reuse those same CDSs, so that's very efficient. And next to that, SAP also offers a lot of standard CDS views. And with that, they are adding a lot of EWM standard views as well. So we can just use those. We don't even have to make them ourselves. Next to that, we have the virtual elements. This is the behavior. So we can, before data gets sent to the front end, we can alter it a little bit. And it's so good to use that because you got organized code base. So again, everything is in Eclipse. You don't have to reach far to get to the place where you're doing the calculations and stuff like that. So that's very interesting. Annotations is in there as well. So that was previously mentioned in the previous presentation. And then REST, which is their way of making the calls and doing the posts and stuff like that. All right, so the practical improvements of RAP. So I think you get the gist now. So clean code base, very high performance, high maintainability, and again, the reusability of the CDSs, which is very efficient. You can see an example of the performance increases that we get. Definitely in get calls, it's very, very interesting because we're using the CDS and you can alter with virtual elements. You can add some ABAP code to it very quickly. Posts, there's also an advantage. The advantage is a little less because we still have to go through a lot of ABAP code when sending it to the CDS. So that's why the performance isn't increased that much, but still, I mean, we got about 20%, which is still a lot. Then the annotations. So I think we recognize this by now. So the annotations are everything that has a little at in front of it. You can add the annotations to projection CDSs. It determines what the front end should do. And it just creates a very high efficient custom front end development process. And a very important note, I saw that was one of the questions in the previous presentation as well. You can overwrite these in the web IDE. So if you've got a separate front-end developer, the front-end developer can override the annotations. It, however, does not overwrite them in the CDS. So you do get a different result in the application that you're generating. You can do that, but the annotations that are in the CDS will stay there. They'll just not be added for that certain project. It keeps the code base just very clean, and the future serviceability is there. This is an example of what we can do with Fiori elements. So it's very customizable for the end user. As you can see, you can change out the columns, you can change out the filters, you can save that using variants. Some end users really use this. We've seen this in practice as well. A lot of people they like it. They like to change stuff around. So that is also a possibility with Fiori elements. So very interesting. Next to that, we have barcode scanning. So there are two options for barcode scanning. You can do barcode scanning using the onboard camera. So that's just some custom coding. It's JavaScript coding that you have to do in the SAP UI5 application. It is, however, very reliant on the container that it is running. Maybe a lot of people know about the Fiori client. The Fiori client is a container in which the application runs. This makes sure that you can actually use the scanner, the camera that is on there. So it is actually pretty versatile, because not all tablets or PCs have hardware scanners on there. So the hardware scanners are the scanners with the laser. Not all of those have that. So but a lot of those do have an onboard camera. So it's very versatile if you use the onboard camera. However, it is faster to use hardware scanners with a laser, and a hardware scanner is independent of low light. But yeah, of course, you need a hardware scanner to be able to use that. So using a hardware scanner where possible is always the way to go. So it's ease of use. They're able, we've got an example over there of someone using the barcode scanner. PO numbers, for example, or serial numbers can be around 10 to 16 characters. If they have to tick that all into their tablet, it just takes a long time. So using a hardware scanner really makes the use of the application a lot more efficient. And user experience on tablet was also very important. So we went for Windows 10 Panasonic tablets. Why did we do that and not go for iOS or Android, for example? Is because of Windows AD. So Fluvius uses Windows AD, so they can just maintain the users, and very importantly, also do remote application deployments on these tablets. Also for the user, it's just a very familiar experience. It's Windows 10, so they know how to use it. And with Edge Chromium, you could just make shortcuts or apps, and this way they can access their application very quickly. And yeah, of course, it's serviceable because it's Windows AD. It's serviceable by in-house technicians. So that's also very important. So I think we covered everything from the most key points from backend to front end. And now we can already go to the case results. So how does it look like? And for this, I've got also a really quick, I think it's about 3 to 4 minutes video of the application actually being used in Lokeren at Fluvius. We're going to take a look at that, and then we'll move on from there. And at the end here, we have a beautiful view of how, like a small time lapse of how everything, how efficient their process has become. I mean, you have to realize they used to, so they got 15 gates over there. They used to, every time that they got a new inbound incoming, they probably traveled the distance about 4 to 5 times to their PC, to the where the sub GUI is located. And now they can just do everything just right over there, which is, it's very efficient. So what are our case results? So the application is in production as of April. So it's already being used for over a month now. It's still pretty early, but we see a very clear increase of efficiency to their inbound process. Employees, that's something that was really remarkable, is that employees are very rapidly adapting to the new workspace. Because it's Windows 10, because they're familiar with everything, they're just adapting to everything really quickly. Next to that, what is also very important is you need to have that continuing support throughout the rollout. Just not only to the end user, but also to the key user. Users have that continuing support. So the rollout is just very smooth, and we experience a smooth rollout. So that's amazing. That's great. And one of the key takeaways is just collaboration, even during these trying times, has been key to the deployment of this successful application. You can also see a quick comment that someone made when I was filming the videos. All right, so the key takeaways. First of all, we determined the architecture and we leveraged SAP S/4HANA version 1909 by using ABAP RAP. So this way we were able to create high-performance solutions in a very efficient way using Eclipse as well. Optimizing UI and UX was also very important for the end users, so they learn very quickly. One of the key things was adapting to the location. So a tablet with hardware scanning. So working together with the supplier of, working together with Panasonic, with the supplier of the tablets, to make sure that the tablets have hardware scanning was also one of the key takeaways. Collaboration with key users is so important. We had Dimitri in the beginning of the presentation talking about the customer case. Working together with Dimitri, he knows everything about the logistics at Fluvius, obviously. So working together with him made the process of creating the application a lot smoother, and it made sure that their expectations were met. So that's very important. Keeping the end users close, and then next to that also, so again, the support while going live is very important. And then the little bit of training that the end users needed, not only the end users, but also the key users needed it. Giving that was also a very important key takeaway. But again, it didn't even take that long a time, because it's front end. It's very familiar to applications that the employees are using right now on their phone or on their tablet. So this just fits right in. And that's it for my presentation of what we did at Fluvius. I hope everyone kind of understands what we did there, where we were going to. And I reserved a couple of minutes, I see, for a Q&A. I know there are a lot of people that have joined us today, which is awesome. Thanks a lot for joining. But don't hesitate to ask any questions. That's what I'm here for. So I see that there has already been a question in the chat. Let me just get the chat open. I think, yeah, Alexander was the first one to ask a question. So what about cameras and other hardware access features once Fiori client is end of life? A very good question. It's something that we asked SAP as well, because we were pretty concerned with the fact that they announced it was couple of months, maybe even a year ago, that they were going to end the Fiori client. Well, their response was definitely with the barcode scanners was actually one of the only things that they didn't take account yet with that change. But there are JavaScript libraries. So if you're doing that custom, there are JavaScript libraries which you can use, which are not reliant on the container. So this way you can. So we decided not to use the Fiori client anymore because we knew that it was going to be end of life. So we used Edge Chromium. But it is definitely still possible with other JavaScript libraries that are still there. So don't worry about that. And on iOS and Android, you just do it natively. So it's only an issue it's only a change that you have to make on Windows 10 compatible devices. Then the second question is from Jeroen. SAP Fiori Tools is a set of extensions for SAP Business Application Studio and Visual Studio Code that makes it faster. If you are creating the UI mainly in Eclipse using annotation CDS, do you still use/need SAP Fiori Tools in Business Application Studio or VS Code? The practical side of making UIs in RAP is still a bit unclear to me. All right, I understand that. Let me try to summarize it really quickly. It's definitely still the same way as in the previously mentioned presentation. So you just use the annotations in your CDS. Based on these annotations that you add in the CDS, the front end will be generated at runtime. So that's the same thing that's just Fiori elements, that's just annotations. So for do you still use need? You still need to use the web IDE, of course, just to see your results, but you actually don't need to do any coding anymore. It really does depend on the customer case. It's something that that Flexo has said as well. It really depends on what the customer case is. If we're talking about a table, a table with filters and stuff like that, you can really easily add those annotations. You can check if that is according to what you want. And if it is, then you're set. You're all good to go. So making UIs in RAP, they didn't invent something new to that. They just add Fiori elements, annotations, and stuff like that. They just added that to RAP. So it's the same way as you would have made it before in CDS. I hope that answers the question because it's really broad. I hope I summarized it quite okay for you. So how about a camera and other hardware access features once Fiori? I hope I answered that question. So does Edge Chromium support this too? Yeah, if you use the correct JavaScript libraries, you can make it work in Edge Chromium. So that's very good. What were the major technical issues that you encountered? Well, the major technical issues that we encountered weren't really that technical at all. It was more authorizations. So Fluvius has their own BCTC team, which have their own procedures of getting new users in the system, of adding roles, adding catalogs, stuff like that. But for example, when I think about what we experienced, to make RAP, it's a different way of activating a service. And normally SAP BC does that, the BC or the TC team does that. And we encountered that they needed to recreate a lot of their procedures to adapt to that new way of creating services and stuff like that. So that was a technical issue that we encountered. And one of the key takeaways of RAP as well, one of the limitations, which is very important, because we made this application, there were a lot of questions at Fluvius and at the other branches of Fluvius, for example, at finance, which utilizes a lot of KPI tools, for example. It is very important. RAP does not work with definitely, I'm talking about virtual elements. It's not really RAP does work, but it's definitely those virtual elements, and you realize that you use those virtual elements. You can't use virtual elements in KPI tiles. So that is also a technical problem that we encountered, but that was at finance. We did not encounter that issue. What were the major technical? So we covered that one. Thank you for the feedback, by the way. I often see the advantages using CDS tools and ABAP RAP, but once you talk about input Fiori applications and the need for a specific backend, do you see custom development as the way to go? We always see that SAP always shows us certain cases in which they can use CDS, they can use RAP, and everything just works together. And sometimes that happens in real life, but not too often. In real life, we encounter, definitely at Fluvius as well, we encountered that they want a lot of custom stuff in there just to make it easier for the end user, which is fully understandable. So the idea is always to keep the core clean, so keep everything as standard as possible. But we realized that custom development, in my opinion, custom development will always be there. Of course, Fiori Elements does help with being able. I remember at a project a couple of years ago, the question of one of the clients was to add a column to a table. For the client, when they explain that to us, it's very simple. Like, it's just add a column, right? It's very simple. But then you look at the application and you see that the application is made on SEGW with classic ABAP programming. So then you have to add it to the entity. So you have to add that column to the entity. You have to add it in the front end. You have to add it in the back end. It's just a lot of work. And with RAP, one of the big advantages is just we're using CDS. If you're using CDS, you just add the column into your CDS. You add your annotations in the same file in your CDS. You activate that, and you're there. You're already done it. So custom development will always be there, in my opinion, but I hope it'll be easier for the developer in the future. What was the development effort? The development effort was pretty high for the first application, but because of the interfaces and because of what I previously talked about, like SAP BC, the team that had to adapt their protocols and stuff to adding users, it's just something that you have to work with the customer to get the customer and the way they set up their protocols and stuff to take those things into account. Once you have all of that done and you're working with a competent developer, then the development effort is really minimal. It's like Flexo talked about previously. You can really quickly create those applications, definitely because you're still in Eclipse. You're creating the services real quick. You don't have to go to GUI anymore. It's just so the effort was really quite all right. Do you make use of push notifications? Yeah. If yes, is this setup straightforward? Set up sockets, firewalls, or should be considered this as an advanced? I consider it more as an advanced setup. Notifications, push notifications is something that we're starting to see a lot at SAP presentations. It is definitely something that is very interesting. But we did not use this in this application so far. RAP, for example, is something that has been around for, I think, 2 years or something like that. But still, it is always interesting to wait stuff out a little bit and then quickly jump on it. The push notifications, maybe in the next project they'll want that, and then we'll make sure that they have it. And then I think we have all the questions answered. Thanks a lot for all the questions. Thanks to all the people that joined here today. I hope you have an amazing rest of the day. And if you've got any questions, you can always email me or get in contact with Delaware. Thanks. Cheers.
Thank you, Jora. Good presentation.
Thanks.
Absolutely. A big thank you to Flexo for the Elia case and Delaware for the Fluvius case. It was a record-breaking session with participants and questions. Really, I wish everybody a great start into the long weekend. Thanks a lot. And keep in touch with Sapiens. We'll be around with more master classes.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Joris, for hosting us, and thank you to the speakers. Have a great long weekend. Take care.
Okay, bye. Thank you.